Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for coming over this afternoon. I have a few announcements to make, and then I will also answer a few questions on those announcements. I have here with me a Joint Secretary, Eurasia, who will be able to give you a sort of more detailed briefing on one of the announcements that we will be making today. In addition, if you want anything else which are in terms of a more detailed briefing, he would provide a response for those questions also. With that, let me make some quick announcements. The first one is related to the External Affairs Minister's visit to Pakistan. At the invitation of the Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Her Excellency Ms. Hina Rabbani Khar, the External Affairs Minister of India, Shri S.M. Krishna, will visit Islamabad for bilateral talks to be held on September 8, 2012. These talks will be preceded by a meeting of the Foreign Secretaries of India and Pakistan on September 7th. The two ministers will also co-chair the plenary session of the India-Pakistan Joint Commission, which will be held in Islamabad on September 8th. The second announcement that I have is about the Mekong-Ganga cooperation meetings. India will be hosting the 6th Mekong-Ganga cooperation meetings on September 3rd and 4th in New Delhi. The senior officials would meet on the 3rd September, and this will be followed by the foreign ministers meeting on the 4th September. As you are aware, the Mekong-Ganga cooperation was launched on 10th November 2000 in Vientiane. It sets up a vision for cooperation amongst India and the 5 Mekong countries, which are Cambodia, Laos People's Democratic Republic, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Thailand. They had identified 4 priority areas for cooperation among these countries, and the cooperation was focused on tourism, culture, education and human resources development, as well as transportation and communication. This is the first time that the Mekong-Ganga cooperation meeting would be hosted by India in India. We had chaired the 5th ministerial meetings on the sidelines of the ASEAN-India meeting. This was in Manila, I think in 2007. The External Affairs Minister, along with the visiting ministers, will review cooperation between these countries and will set out the future direction and the pathways for this important mechanism for enhanced cooperation among these countries. And finally, we put this press release out a little earlier today, and that is the visit of the President of Tajikistan, His Excellency Mr. Emomali Rahmon, who will pay a visit to India from 1st to 4th September 2012 at the invitation of the President of India. The main day of engagement would be on 3rd September. The Tajik President will meet the President of India, the Vice President of India, and hold discussions on bilateral cooperation with the Prime Minister. During the visit, the leader of the opposition and the External Affairs Minister will both call on the President of Tajikistan, as is the usual process. On the same day, President Rahman will also address a business meeting jointly organized by the SHM, CII and FICCI, and the President is also slated to visit organizations and institutions outside New Delhi. That's all I have in terms of announcements. If you have any questions that you may require on any of the first 2 or the 3rd, we will answer those, and then we will have a more detailed briefing on the visit of the Tajik President. What is happening is that there is going to be a meeting of the... Pardon?
I mean, since it was established, to see what has happened in the...
I understand your point that that It was established in 2000, and then they have been, it's now 12 years, and you would like to understand what has been the progress. I mean, briefly, what we can mention to you is that the focus, while on some of these areas they've moved ahead. For example, on connectivity, if you could recall, there are lots of projects which are working on connectivity between India and Myanmar. These are not all the way through for all these countries, but India and Myanmar. There is also a trilateral project which is between India, Myanmar, and Thailand, and this is road connectivity. There are a large number of uh, um, um, there are a large number of I-Tech scholarships which are being worked on between India and these specific countries, who are referred to Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, these three. You are also aware of Indian interest in Vietnam specifically. This is a favorite topic of all of you, so I will not go into further detail on that. But that said, the idea was to connect two civilizations which are along two major rivers of Asia. And uh, you are right that since 2007 there has been a certain lull in the activities, and the idea is to reinvigorate those activities. We will provide you with a more detailed briefing on that shortly. Yes.
This agreement on visa relaxation, business visas, was to be signed during the Home Secretary's meet. But then there was a feeling from the Pakistani side that this ought to be done at the political level, not at the official level. Now, what is our sense? Is this agreement going to be signed during this visit?
You are right that we were ready to sign the agreement during the visit of Home Secretary of India to Pakistan. At that stage, we were informed that there are certain legal and other requirements which the Pakistani government has to complete. We have been in touch with them since then, and including informally more recently. We are still trying to work out to ensure that the agreement can be signed at the earliest. It is possible that you are mentioning one of those occasions which may arise here, but we never announce signing of agreements of any kind before a visit is over. We will, if I understand many of you are traveling with the External Affairs Minister to Islamabad, and you will have occasion to know what would be the outcome of that visit. We do not want to preclude and announce any outcome prior to the visit. That's not been our usual way of handling these things. Yes, Ranjit?
Have your ministry received evidences regarding SMS messages from Pakistan? And would the minister be sharing all those evidences during his visit to Islamabad?
I think this is again another favorite of yours, which we have been following for some time. At this stage, we have not received any evidence on this, but we are aware that evidence is being collated and collected by the concerned authorities in India, and once that is over, obviously there will be interministerial consultations to see what we can do to take that process further. Yes.
This is on none of the announcements that you made, but it's about the NAM summit that just got over. Can you give a little bit of a readout in terms of what the bilateral meeting between the Prime Minister and the President of Iran?
Yes. On the President of Iran. The meeting lasted for about an hour. This was the first meeting. It was a meeting followed later on between Prime Minister and the Supreme Leader. That meeting lasted for about 40 minutes, I think. Coming to the first meeting, there was a discussion on the NAM summit, because that was the principal reason for Prime Minister's visit there. They discussed what were the challenges that are facing NAM, and how India and Iran, which was to take over the chairmanship of NAM, could coordinate on this. They also discussed at some length on the bilateral relations. Prime Minister did mention that there was scope for increasing Indian exports to Iran. Because at the current stage, I think the imports from Iran to India are about 9 billion larger than the exports from India, and I think it's about 12.5 billion exports from India and about 13 billion or so imports to India from Iran. They also discussed in this context of increasing exports, possibly including wheat exports. There was also a discussion on to pursue the issue of Chabahar port, both bilaterally and and trilaterally with Afghanistan. And in that context, there were further discussions on infrastructure development projects that can be considered. I think that broadly covers. Yes, yes, there was this discussion about the P5+1 engagement with Iran, and Prime Minister conveyed our position that we hope that this would lead to a successful outcome for peace and security in the region. These were broadly the issues that I can recollect from that meeting.
What was the Iranian president's response in terms of the nuclear issue? This P5+1 engagement.
Yes, he gave us he gave an update of where the discussions were, and you would appreciate we couldn't share that sort of an update of what was discussed between the two leaders on that. Yes, just a minute. Yes, Rajiv, last question for you.
In this connection, what is, has there been any decision on the Iranian offer of 100 million investment to India for Chabahar project? And also there is a, as far as I understand, the EU sanctions on Iran, they put a cap of $20 million per annum per company investment in Iran. So this is $100 million project. So can you just throw some light on that?
Let me clarify. First of all, I don't know what project you're talking of, which is 100 million. I think when the Foreign Secretary was here, he did mention that there are several options. We haven't decided on any of which of these options which we would follow. There are several options based on what level of interest and what importance we have for each of these. These are only in the preliminary stage because we've just got that report by the port. I think it's the Ports Association, or yeah. So at this stage, let's not talk of figures because there is no decision at all on this. They have appointed a joint working group, as you are perhaps aware. In 3 months' time, when the External Affairs Minister visits Tehran in November, we hope to have some movement on that between now and then. So that's regarding the project. Now, I think first of all, let me clarify to you, I don't think there are any EU sanctions which impact on third countries. To my knowledge, EU sanctions relate to import from Iran and not implications for third countries. There are, of course, other countries which have. Yes, I mean, that's, either I answer or you take over this. So there are other countries that have imposed those sanctions, and we are well aware of this. Let me assure you that the Government of India will take all these into account when we finally decide on this, because I do not want to get into further details on this, and we will have occasion to share with you, if at all we opt for an option, what it is and how this will play out. So let's wait for a decision on this before we answer that. Yes, Manish.
Was there any bilateral meeting with the president of Egypt? Because there was talk of a pull-aside meeting. What happened?
Yes, I understand there was a short pull-aside meeting. We are not privy to the details. There was supposed to be a structured meeting. It did not happen because both the president of Egypt and the Prime Minister of India were both on the podium at the time that this meeting was scheduled to be held in a more structured manner. But however, they had occasion, because they were in a room where only heads of state and government were there before they came over to the main hall, and Prime Minister did mention that he had a short discussion with the President of Egypt. I am not privy to those details. But it was not a structured meeting and there was nobody else available, so at this stage we should leave it at that. Yes.
India support the Iranian nuclear program?
I think we've made our position clear several times, and I don't want to go into this. This is available on the record, and perhaps this is one of the few times maybe you've come here, so it's new to you, but I think we made our position very clear, and I don't want to repeat. Our votes in the IAEA are available to see on what is our position, because it's to encapsulate it into one liner for you would be difficult, but I would certainly advise you to have a look at something so that you have a broader appreciation of our views on this whole issue. Yes, you had already asked. Yes, sir. Yes, of course. We are a free country.
So, the Defense Minister A.K. Antony has given assurance to the delegation led by Mr. Narayan Swamy, along with the Tamil Nadu Member of Parliament, that the moment the Prime Minister back to India, the 2 military personnel will be sent back to Sri Lanka. Now, what is the current situation?
I must confess that I'm not the right person to answer assurance that the Defense Minister has given to, because this is not the ministry that can answer what the Defense Minister said. And that said, it's just, I think, about 2 hours ago or 2.5 hours ago that the Prime Minister came back. And I don't know since then if there have been any development, because you said the moment this happened, so I'm afraid I can't answer that question. But however, if there are any things that we come to know of it, we will certainly share with you. But at this stage, I'm not aware of anything, and certainly we are not the right ministry, because I think this question was asked a few days ago by you, and the Foreign Secretary did reply that the Ministry of Defense is considering this issue, and whatever is the decision of the Ministry of Defense on this matter, MEA will then pursue and take it further. And that remains our position, but I do not know of any further details in the last 3 hours which may have happened since the return of Prime Minister to Delhi. Last question.
The Iranians have promised to send oil to India in fully insured ships belonging to Iran. When is this going to start? Because only one ship has brought oil this month, and it is charging 70% more than what is the normal practice. Thanks.
I think we've traversed this a little earlier. There were issues relating to why Indian ships couldn't get reinsurance, and we've explained that since then there has been an agreement for reinsurance of by an Indian insurance company also of specific insurance charges on oil from Iran. So while that is an option, there are other options also which are available, and this is for the oil companies to make that decision. It's not for the Ministry of External Affairs to make a decision either on it or to monitor which ship is bringing what oil. You would appreciate that while we look at the broader policy on this, and if there are any issues that have an impact, we certainly it will be brought to our notice both by the Ministry of Shipping and the Ministry of Finance. But at this stage, I'm not aware that there's been a further dissonance since the last framework was put into place some time ago. Srinjoy, last question, please. You always get to ask.
This is regarding the Judicial Commission. Can you just tell me what the situation is? Why, again, is there a change in the view of the government? Initially, it appeared that the government would not entertain it. Now it appears that there is a different view. Can you tell us what the position is, and if there is a change, what is the change and why?
Yes, this was raised by the Pakistani Interior Minister during the discussions yesterday when Prime Minister met President Zardari. And Pakistan had made a request for the Commission to have permission to interview 3 persons. These were, my understanding, is 2 doctors and 1 executive magistrate. And what was our response was that the matter is now, our Home Ministry is consulting our judicial authorities on this. And we would be in a position to respond to them once we get a response from the judicial authorities. As far as the executive branch is concerned, it was also indicated that we take a positive view of this request, and we would be able to respond once we complete consultations within India on this. That's what the situation is as of now. So I hope I've made myself clear on that. Any other questions? Yes, thank you very much. With that, we come to the end of this part of our interaction today. Thank you.